having a home office, I realized the need for a communication system throughout the house. By 1994, Mark was 12 years old, and he, for some time, had been, let's say, he wasn't as stimulated as he should have been in the schools. And their answer to his rising abilities in the mathematics arena were to accelerate him to higher grades in math. So in seventh and eighth, in middle school, he was doing high school math. They were busing him up to the high school to take 10th grade math along with the high school students. I thought it would be a good idea. I never saw him doing homework at home. He said he always was able to finish it during his breaks at school, and he loved to video game. So I introduced him to computers. He swallowed up the Atari computer that I had in no time. It was the only thing I had that taught basic language. Eventually, I got him his own computer program, and he dragged me out to Barnes & Noble to buy a book on C++ programming, which I had never heard of, but he told me that's what he needed to learn. I tried reading with him, but he had much more time than I did. And eventually I hired the husband of the community counselor for the au pair that we had living in our house with us was a computer science teacher. So he would come to the house once a week and teach Mark C++ programming. At age 12, when he was in his last year at Ardsley Middle School, we approached the principal of the high school and said, hey, he's already being bussed up for math. Can we have him take some computer science course up there? I notice you have AP computer science. So they facilitated a meeting with the computer science teacher. I don't know if he's still there. I think his name was Zimmerman. I doubt it. This is going back again 26 years. And the computer science teacher met with Mark and came out, shook his head and said, he can't take my course. He already knows everything that I'm going to teach. But he suggested that at the time, Ardsley had a program with Mercy College where if at the end of registration, any courses were not subscribed and they had permission of the principal, Ardsley students could take a class at Mercy College for 1/3 of the matriculation fee. At that time, I think it was $240 a credit. So essentially for $80 a credit, he was able to take a 3-credit course that met Thursday night from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night on Java programming. And he was quite a small 12-year-old. Even now, I think he's 5'7" or maybe 5'8". But I remember taking him to his first class and the instructor looking at me, shaking his head and said, you can't bring him in with you. And I said, you don't get it. He's the student. I'm leaving. Bye. Here he goes. So that was a course, actually a graduate level course in JavaScript that he decided to enroll in. So he did that for a couple of years. And then after completing 10th grade at Ardsley, Ardsley no longer had any courses to offer him that would stimulate him. So he petitioned us to let him go to Phillips Exeter Academy in New Hampshire for his last 2 years. And there he really took off. And I remember bringing up the topic of this lighting system. And Mark looked at me and said, well, you already have computers in all your rooms. And they all already talk to each other. So why not just use the computers instead of having to spend a lot of money and drill a lot of holes and get all these wires for this lighting system? And I said, well, what do we have that can do that? And he goes, well, let me think about it. And in about a day, he put together a primitive form of what was essentially the first social network ever, which we called Zucknet. It was only used in our home. It enabled all our computers to have a little chat box that enabled us to do all our internal and family messaging from computer to computer in the home. He was solicited by several companies, including Microsoft, to buy the software from him and to come work for them, but he opted to instead go to school at Harvard, where he made it for 2 years until he got sidetracked with his development of Facebook and decided to take a leave, which became permanent. In 2005, he convinced his sister Randi, who actually is the only member of my family who did graduate Harvard. They had 1 year together at Harvard when Mark was a freshman and Randi was a senior. But he convinced Randi, who was working for a firm in New York City doing marketing, to come out and be a marketer for his fledgling company. And from 2005 to 2011, Randi was marketing director at Facebook and was the one responsible for really getting Facebook into live video. She actually got an Emmy nomination for her work with Facebook, and the 2010 election primaries and election day. And she also was the one responsible in 2011, right before she left the company, for doing one of the first Facebook Live broadcast town halls with President Obama, where President Obama actually came to Facebook headquarters and did a Facebook Live broadcast. So that was one of her brainchilds. I think she felt kind of suppressed by what she wanted to do at Facebook, and she also had a passion for Broadway. When she was at Ardsley herself, and then Horace Mann, where she went for high school, theater was her passion and her love. And I want to say it was back in 2014, maybe 2013, 14. You could ask her when she comes on. I'm not sure the exact date. But in her new firm, Zuckerberg Media, which enhanced company's media presence, she was contacted by the play Rock of Ages. The manager of the play, The Rock of Ages, was having some difficulty, and we're looking to hire Randi's firm. And Randi's here now, I see. Looking to hire Randi's firm. And someone who Googled her figured out that Randi actually had a voice and she could sing. They saw some of her YouTube videos with her singing and whatnot, and they invited her to do a 2-week stint in Rock of Ages for the character Regina, who's the second female lead in the show. And that really turned Randi's life upside down and got her the bug, so to speak, to get more involved with Broadway. She was subsequently asked to stay longer. It was such a hit. And with her passion for Broadway reignited, she and her family at that time, they had 2 children, moved back to New York, sadly for us. My oldest grandson, Asher, was my movie buddy and partner in crime. But they moved back to New York, and Randi, among her many activities with her company, was also producing Broadway plays. And last year she won 2 Tony Awards for producing Hadestown and Oklahoma. So that's become an important part of her life now. And she also has um, a Broadway fund that raises, it's kind of dormant right now, kind of Broadway being shut down, but they help produce and raise funds for producing Broadway plays and other behind the scenes actions going on Broadway. So that's another in the line of following passion. And it's something my wife and I tried really hard to do with our kids.
One of the things that always kind of, got me down being in Silicon Valley. I loved working at Facebook in Silicon Valley. I loved being on the front lines of so much change in the world. But one thing that got me down is that everyone sort of looked the same out in Silicon Valley. I kept asking myself, where are the women? Why are there no women at the tops of these companies? Why is everyone white? And I kept asking these questions to myself because this is an incredible industry technology that's supposed to be democratizing the world and giving access to everyone. Yet you look at the top tech companies in the world and the leadership at all these companies looks so similar. So for me, that actually sparked my life mission after leaving Facebook, which was to really give an opportunity for entrepreneurship to anyone who wanted it and who deserved it. And for me, a lot of that initiative meant encouraging more women and girls to get into technology. It encouraged expanding what the notion of an entrepreneur looks like in America. So for women and girls, I started doing a lot of research on why we lose girls in technology. And my research started showing that it's around 8 years old that we lose girls for some reason. Around 3rd, 4th grade, girls start saying, well, I'm not good at math, that's for boys. So one of the educational initiatives I launched is called Sue's Tech Kitchen. It's actually going on right now, and it's a series of super fun online camps where you solve mysteries, you're learning about magic and illusions and 3D printing and all kinds of fun things in it, kind of an aha moment. In non-COVID times, we actually were touring a dessert shop around the country where you could get 3D printed chocolate and you could have a robot make a cake for you and all kinds of fun things like that, just to spark that love of technology early. My other initiative, though, is called Zuckerberg Institute, where we train students and entrepreneurs. And for me, that's a real passion of mine because I've started to take a look in this country of some of the real issues of digital divide. I think many of us on this call are lucky to be born and live in a zip code where we have great access to Wi-Fi and technology. You're on Zoom right now, so you obviously have access and you have the entire world open to you. But most of us only need to drive a little distance to get to a zip code where people don't have that kind of access and don't have the entire world open to them that way. So with Zuckerberg Institute, we are trying to change the face of entrepreneurship by giving everyone, high school, college student and up, access to all the skills that you need for those careers that don't even exist yet. Whether that's starting as putting your personal brand and your story together so that you stand out on a college application, on a job application, training you to think like an entrepreneur and innovate or found a co-founding team. That has been really just the biggest joy for me is working with students across the board. So that's where I spend most of my time with Zuckerberg Institute and Sue's Tech Kitchen. And I hope that one of you will hire me one day because I genuinely feel that all of you are going to go on to do amazing things, and I hope you'll think of us when you do. So first of all, I deeply understand a lot of the challenges that so many of you are going through, especially right now. You probably were so excited this summer to have this incredible internship, and then all of a sudden it's over Zoom. You know, what a letdown. And I'm sure this incredible group did the best possible job of giving you a great internship opportunity over Zoom. But let's face it, it's not the same. And I think a lot of us are feeling very lonely. We're feeling very disconnected from our community and our peers. And we're feeling a little lost, feeling like, how am I going to differentiate myself when I apply to college, when I apply to other jobs, when right now there are no opportunities for extracurricular activities and no opportunities to do anything that's really differentiating. So the first thing that we want to do as Zuckerberg Institute is just give you that community and help you feel less lonely. So every single week we do these brain breaks that are completely free, $0. You come in and you just like hang out with us and discuss what's going on, what's on your mind, how we can help you. Our coaches are both just extremely motivational, but also like licensed mental health coaches too. So can really help with anything that's going on in your mind that's bothering you, that you're excited about. But then we also want to arm you with real world skills too. So for example, we just ran a program called the Post-Pandemic Task Force, where we basically asked high school and college students to reimagine what industries will look like once the pandemic is over. And so some students wanted to think about the restaurant industry, some wanted to think about sports venues, and we partnered students with experts in those fields. And at the end, they actually made a whole presentation about what they thought the sports industry would look like, or what travel would look like. And so that's I think a really interesting way to learn things that you wouldn't necessarily be learning in school and pick up some skills that are differentiated. And so everything that we do is designed to help you feel less lonely, give you other like-minded students around the country who love business and entrepreneurship the way you do, and to give you specific skills so that you do stand out on that college essay. You do stand out when you're applying for jobs in ways that other students aren't getting or aren't doing right now. So I hope you'll check us out at zuckerberginstitute.com. All the info is there. The coaches are awesome. I really hope to see you there, even just popping in for our free brain breaks. And
so anybody could just sign in.
Yeah. Anyone can just sign it. Well, you get a code like this, like a Zoom passcode. So you can just sign up through the website. And I know this is a really challenging time for everyone. And so that is our only goal, is to kind of help you through this time.
How do we provide opportunities for, to diversify the industry, the business? How do we do that without kind of creating a quota?
Yeah. Nick, that's such a beautiful question. I'm so glad you asked it. And I think it's going to involve a lot of hard work on many fronts for many years. The good news that I'm seeing is there is progress. It's not enough. When I went out to Silicon Valley, I could only name, I think, one investment firm that had even one female partner. And so, of course, people invest in things that seem familiar to them and things they can relate to. And so if you have, these all white male investment teams, of course, they're going to be biased in what kinds of startups they support, even if they don't know that they're biased. Now, I'm happy to say that I would say almost every investment firm in Silicon Valley has better gender diversity on it. You'd be hard pressed to find an all-male team in Silicon Valley anymore. But there's still a lot more work to be done. For example, I think last year only 6% of all money in Silicon Valley went to female-founded startups, and I think it was 0.2% went to non-white founders, which is something that none of us should feel good about in the industry. In fact, I think there have been only 40 startups ever that started by a Black female that have raised over $1 million. And I guarantee you that while we're on this call today, there are 40 startups that have raised $1 million while we're sitting here. So I think all of us should feel a burning passion to be better and to help companies be better. I think it starts with, it starts right now with our wallets. It starts with the kind of businesses that you support. Are you supporting businesses that value diversity? Are you, I guarantee that anything that you want to buy, you could buy from a Black-owned business, a female-owned business, an LGBTQ-owned business. And you could really think about even the small purchases that you're making and how to value that. I think as we're going out in the world, the choices that we make around who we hire, who we learn from, who we take on as mentors, and who you mentor one day, all of those decisions make a huge difference in the world. So Nick, I think even the fact that you brought that up and you're thinking about it and it's important to you makes me feel so happy and so hopeful for this next generation. But I truly believe that all the work that we're doing now hopefully will make it so that things look a lot different.
That was a great question, great answer, Randi.
Oh, what was it like being on Broadway? How was it like acting and singing on Broadway?
Oh my gosh, it was both amazing and the scariest thing that I've ever done in my life. Sometimes in life I once had a mentor tell me that if you don't feel uncomfortable at least once a month, you're not like pushing yourself hard enough in life. And so when I got the call to be on Broadway, I was sitting in California. I had a different life. I had sort of put those dreams behind me, and it just reignited the spark in my soul. This had been my dream since I was so little. They told me, they were like, it's a very small part. Don't worry, you'll learn it really quickly. Well, it was the second lead role in the show. I had like 4 solos and dances, and I only had 7 rehearsals from moving to New York to opening on Broadway. 7 rehearsals over the course of about a week and a half. I never even actually got to rehearse on the stage where I performed in, because there were shows going on there every night already. So I rehearsed in this like tiny little rehearsal studio by myself. And then my first rehearsal on the Broadway stage was 2 hours before I opened in the show. So it was hands down the most terrifying, scary thing I'd ever done in my life. But you know what? I think you surprise yourself in life when you challenge yourself and you rise to that challenge. And now, even in the kind of the most challenging times, I think, you know what, if I could do that, I could do anything that the world throws at me. And so it was an incredible experience. I ended up doing the show for about 30 performances. And what it taught me, though, is that, as fun as it is to perform on Broadway, it's even more fun to be the person calling the shots, to be the boss. Like, it's more fun to be the director or the producer who's bossing around the people who are on stage. And so that's how I transitioned into producing and into getting involved on the business side of theater. And so for anyone who has a dream in acting, anything creative, pursue that dream, go for it. But maybe challenge yourself one rung higher and think not only how do you be the actor, but how do you run the show? How do you write it? How do you be the one in charge?